Let's begin by opening up our file that we gave you. So here is the Excel file, lists and tables. I have got it on my desktop. Just double clicking, that opens the Excel and opens up my file. And then when you come in here, we'll just do a quick browse of the types of information that we have in this file. So I've got a tables tab in here with a nice long list of information that we're going to use. And then we'll get into the sorting topic, and we'll use this worksheet tab to get that going. We've got filtering that we're going to talk about, slicers, which is a type of filtering. We'll do some advanced filter commands. We'll get into that remove duplicates. We've got the validation here. We've got the convert back to a list here. So currently it's a table. And then we'll try out the subtotal command at the end. So as you're browsing through the file, you'll notice that a lot of the things look the same. It's basically a long list of information, just kind of reset as we talk about each of the different commands. So first question is, what is a list? Well, a list is a range of cells that contain related information. So this is a nice example of a nice long list, and I'll just kind of scroll down, and it looks like I've got 45 records of information plus that extra header row that we have here at the top. So when we're talking about rows of information, so each of these rows, they're called a record. That's something that we like to say here in Excel. And then this top row, you can refer to it as a header row, or your labels or descriptions or things like that. And you'll want to have that as part of the build of your lists that you're creating. And so that's one of the proper design elements that you need, is you have to have the labels here at that top row of your table. So something short, descriptive, just make sure they're unique in types of information. You don't want the same exact name in there twice. You'll also want to make sure that you're avoiding any blank rows. Okay, so I know a lot of times people like to have this extra blank row between the label and then the title or the information, and I do see that a lot with Excel, but that really isn't the proper format. What we want to do is notice that Excel is going to think that this is one list, and then Excel is going to think of this as a separate list. It'll think of that as two separate lists. So that's why it's important to remove and delete any extra blank rows that you happen to see. Same thing going column-wise too. If you have a blank column in there, make sure you delete that and remove that. You want your list to be all kind of condensed together as one big block. Another point here to your design, proper design of your lists, is you want one type of information in each column. So as an example here, I'm working in column A, and the type of information that's in column A is just text. Just text. And then over here in column E, we've got just numbers. So that type of information that we have in this column is just numbers. And then in column F, numbers again. So it's consistent with the type of information that can be in there. So usually text, usually numbers, or we could also do dates too. So over on this other page here, we've got a column of just dates. And again, we're just keeping with the consistency all the way through. Okay, so the type of information. And then the fourth point here for the design of your list is you want to make sure your list is just on one worksheet by itself. I mean, don't put extra things on here. So don't type extra things over here on the right, because when you get into filtering, it'll end up getting lost in the shuffle. So just take one worksheet tab and just make that your list. Don't try to put in any extra things on here. Now you can do that though. Sometimes you might want to, like for an advanced filter, for instance, you could add pieces in here, but you'll want to do that above the table or below the table. You always want to separate it with a blank row. And then same thing at the bottom. If there were things that you wanted to include in here, just separate it by a blank row. All right, here's another thing that you want to look for. I'm just going to throw in some totals here. So I'm adding this column and this column. Now you can see I've got my two totals in here. Now, if you have any kind of calculation at the very bottom of your list and you want to keep it, what you want to do is separate it with a blank row. Okay, that way this is your list and then this is a separate piece. You need to have that blank row in there to separate it. If you didn't have the blank row, let me just delete that for a second, then Excel is going to think of these numbers here as part of your list. And it really isn't. It's a separate thing. It's your totals that are in there. So if you have that, either delete them to remove them, or you can just throw in that blank row. I'm just going to delete those. Don't really need that right for this point. So again, the 4 main points for proper design of any list is you'll want to have those descriptive labels at the top, no blank rows, no blank columns. The type of information like text or numbers or dates should be the same in the column. And then the list should be on one worksheet tab all by itself, no extra things kind of typed around it. All right, so next I want to talk about what is a table. So currently this is a list. It's a basic type of list that you've been using in Excel for a long time. But what we want to do is take this basic list and we want to be able to update it and upgrade it to this table. So it's kind of an advanced type of feature. And when you take a basic list and you format it as a table, you're going to get all of these extra automatic things that are going to happen. Okay, so this one is a basic list. Over here, this one's already a table. So some things that we see right away, we just see color, and every other row is a different color. Okay, that's something that happens with a table. There are other things too that we'll look at in a moment, but that's one of the features that is in there. And if I were to add in, let's say, a couple of blank rows in here so I can squeeze in some more records, you'll notice that Excel will continue on with the every other row for the colors. Let me just throw in another row in here anywhere. And you'll notice again, Excel takes care of every other row is the same color. Now that's an automatic feature that happens because this is a table. It's something you don't have to worry about. In a list, it'd just get messy and you'd have to kind of reformat everything on your own manually. It gets kind of messy. Let me just go ahead and undo these here. So this list is a table currently, and then this list is just a basic list. We'll be upgrading it in a little bit here. So at this point, I'm just going to have you open up your file, kind of get comfortable with what it looks like. Go ahead and peek at the other worksheet tabs in there, and then notice the design that has to happen for any kind of list, for proper list design as you're working through that. And then I'll meet you back in a sec.